Welcome to another edition of Your Impact Attack. That's right, it is Your Impact Attack. And tonight we are going to be bringing this impact back to you, the rightful owners. Who are we? We are the VBC collectively. That would be me, Jamie, the Vet Williams. Also with my tag team partner, as I reach through the internet to get the hot tag and sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Here comes Brandon, House of Fire, throwing people out left and right. What's up, Brandon?
Not much, pal. It's Monday. We're here. We're hanging, chilling with the Bearcats. Impact Attack. Yeah, pal.
That's right. And of course, we've got the C as well. It's always a little bit early, opening doors, filing in. Chris Winland is here. Elizabeth is here. Chris hasn't even really asked a question. He's just trying to sneak in a question real quick now. So we got you there. But yeah, here comes some more people. Who else is coming in? Hello? Hello? Did I freeze up or something? Or muted? We muted? What's going on?
Let's see who else we got. We got Cold Blooded with us. We got Steve Eggert. How y'all doing? Whoop, whoop.
All right. All right. So, yeah, it's the impact attack. And, you know, we're in that freewheeling opening portion where we just wing it every single week and kind of chit chat about whatever's been going on. I don't know what is there to have you seen any newsworthy items roll across the desk this week? Because personally, I have not. So I'm kind of double checking like live. Um, has anybody heard anything?
Nothing really newsworthy, but I thought there were there were at least some things that happened during Full Gear as well as the scrum that at least warranted at least a little bit of discussion.
Okay, well we could start with that because and I will say even though I had to sort of partially cover Full Gear on the wreckage right here, HMG Channel Attitude, but I did not get to watch all of Full Gear in depth, and I don't think I'm going to be watching it. I never watched the scrums, so there's a good chance that any of these topics will be news to me, so I can react live. So, what did you see here? Recall anything like that? You wanna get us rolling?
My big take, at least from the scrum, let's start with the scrum, since
Okay.
that's what I kind of can recall the
I
best.
I have zero knowledge of the scrum, so I'm very excited.
Ooh. All right, so Herd Syndicate MVP, he just roasted everybody.
Great.
And Tony Khan was doing everything he could to try to kind of like save face, be like a complete, fanboy geek marking out. Which was it? I don't know. That might have been for my entertainment just watching that. Because dude, the stuff that MVP was saying, like one dude said he was from Figure 4 Weekly. He said, "What's that?" And Tony Khan said, "Oh, it's the Wrestling Observer newsletter." To which MVP said, "Oh, her syndicate doesn't entertain any questions from that nerd. Next question." And
Damn.
you could hear that reporter go, "My God!" And then Tony Khan says, "I'll answer that question, sir."
Sir. Silly. Well, well, Figure 4 Weekly. If that's not Brian Alvarez, does that mean that Brian Alvarez sent a flunky?
Yeah, it was like some dude named like Arya or something.
Oh. Well, hey. Um, I know that some people take a different, you know, there's definitely you got your line in the sand about wrestling journalists and also the Observer and its affiliates as well. Um, I really Brian Alvarez is always going to be over with me because number one, uh, I saw him with my own eyes come down and work an hour Broadway on the fly. So um, that was part of what that was part of when we were doing our offshoot TV show from OVW. One of the episodes was Ted the Trailer McNailer versus Brian Alvarez for an hour, and he just showed up and he worked the hour. Like, you're not gonna get me to badmouth Brian Alvarez. Also, in Figure Four, historically, in Figure Four Weekly, he did once name the Army of Two as his new favorite tag team. So there may be a little professional bias there. So, um, but yeah. So MVP, obviously, even if he doesn't really feel that way, that's the place to get the gimmick over, right?
Yeah, it was one. He was like completely in character while doing it.
God, I love MVP, man. He's so cool.
Like there was one part during the scrum where he asked somebody for his credentials. Like it said, like, do you actually have a degree? Where from? Full Sail. Okay, proceed.
Full Sail. Yeah, will you get a degree at Full Sail from like computer graphics and that qualifies you to ask a wrestling question? Well, I attended several NXT tapings, so um yeah, all right. So the Hurt Syndicate were stars of the scrum is basically what I'm hearing.
Yep, and there was the final question was kind of the one that stole the show. And let's just say I'm not in a spot where I'm really qualified to speak on that. All I can say is I thought Bobby handled it very well and shut that shit down fantastically, professionally, and with class.
Ah, yes. Well, I assume that is the Black Champions question, right?
Okay, so you did hear about that at least.
This clip kept showing up in my X timeline for whatever reason, probably because, like you said, it was a hit. So I kind of saw what he said. I don't, but that was it. I didn't have the full context of the thing. But yeah.
Yeah, she basically she asked her question, and Bobby he did the whole like put his hand up to MVP, said let me handle this, and he just did what Bobby does, and I thought he did a brilliant job.
Yeah. Well, the cultural implications aside, when Bobby Lashley, in the right circumstances, gets the microphone, he can be quite a menace. So I really want that aspect to open up. It's great to have MVP there to talk, because he's not going to be wrestling and the other two guys are. So MVP is he's such a good, management figure. But I'll get to Todd Brantley in a second. What's up, Todd? But I kind of look at it as not that they're on the level necessarily, but how the Bockwinkel Heenan pairing was like neither one of these guys, both these guys could talk, so they, it was more like a complimentary thing. Like I really feel like that's MVP and Lashley in a lot of ways. If you only seen them in WWE as the Hurt Business, you're not going to think so. You're not going to agree. But if you've seen MVP do anything in his career and you remember Bobby Lashley when he was in Impact Wrestling, then you know that that's like a deadly combination on the mic as far as like being able to roast people, take them apart and go. Bobby Lashley used to just get in the ring and just have a stream of consciousness promo that was just, he was good. And most people didn't see it because it's Impact. It was Impact in the mid 20 teens, so nobody was watching that shit. So you
Get me
think
Destination America, pal.
right? So if all you know is Bobby Lashley for WWE, you think he can't do a promo still, probably. Because when he went back to WWE, they never let him unleash that kind of shit ever again. They had him doing obstacle courses and having guys dress up like his sisters. So that's, regardless of what Bobby says out of his own mouth about getting booked better with Vince McMahon, no, you weren't. But nonetheless, now I hope he has the opportunity to do stuff here. It's too bad you get to see it at a scrum or whatever, but it is what it is. Todd's comment was, so I'm not a black champion, but I am a comment king who is black. Does that count for anything? Well, we're trying to normalize comment kings, Todd, okay? We're trying to take we're just trying to take it, whether it's a Asian comment king, a Latino comment king, we're just comment kings. So anyway, if you guys did see the scrum, what I just said was hilarious. And I am the new comment king. But I don't think it counts as a comment king, Brandon, if you are the co-host of a show, like comments are the comments. Even if you make comments on a podcast, you're still like running the thing, and then the comments for the commenters.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of conflict of interest there.
Yeah. But yeah, it's I don't have a problem with I'll just say this because I'm not going to say that I'm qualified to speak on it necessarily, but judging by the amount of black people that I have in my life and that continue to consume my content, let's say, I will say that I'm sure they won't mind. But it's not so much what was said there by Bobby and the question and everything, but like when Bobby does that, then I see all the people come out of the woodwork with their, the anti-woke rhetoric, which is just, it just disgusts me, like seeing all these people and they're, it's just basically, because I know what they're saying is not really what Bobby's saying. They like that Bobby told somebody to stop talking about black people, not the fact of the entire situation that he's commenting on and the decades and centuries of stuff that has gone on in this country, that he's talking about. They're taking the one aspect of it and trying to weaponize it. And that's one of the things that a certain segment of the population always tries to do, to where even when black people have a voice, they still try to weaponize that voice in the favor of something that is, let's say, less than savory, right? So, that's basically what I have to say about that. As my friend Mike Martin shows up. Good to see you, Mike. Thank you for stopping by. Always a pleasure. So, anyway, with that said, anything else from Full Gear or the Scrum or anything before we move on?
Dude, watching that entire thing is worth it just to watch Tony Khan the entire time. Like,
Isn't it always?
Dude, he was extra on point this time for some reason. Like, especially with the Hurt with the Hurt Syndicate, like he was like, there was points that he was like openly marking out for MVP as he was shutting people down.
He's got to live it. He's a fan. Sonic says, how's Tony Khan gonna lock him in a room to answer questions for fools they ignore online? Brilliant. That's the best booking he's done. Is that right there? So, yeah, I mean, if you like scrums, of course, Tony Khan's a highlight. He always has been.
Scrums are kind of like those, or like train wrecks. Like, it's going to be horrible, but you can't look away.
Mm. Todd says they wanted to fit their narrative. Same people that knocked the Costco guys, but they're arguably the best and most over parts of the show. Well, I apologize. I'm one of those people. I didn't see their spot on the show, but I saw the promotional materials leading up to it from Dynamite and Rampage. So my thought was I'm not going to dignify these people with a response, but
to be fair, their appearance on the pre-show was the third most watched single piece of wrestling media in 2024. Or I think on Twitter, I should say, or X.
Oh, okay. Well, why do I feel like Meltzer would get roasted for saying something like that? But if guys want to talk about like a fat guy and his fat kid throwing shitty punches, I saw people putting over those punches. Like, you serious? Do you guys have the same eyes I have? Oh my God.
I can't comment on it because I personally didn't see it, but like, that's kind of like, you kind of got to, if you're going to comment on it, you got to, okay, like that looked like shit, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, it got views, but it looked like shit, which of course had to do with the fact that it was the outside promotion.
Yeah. Even Lab Rat saying it. Lab Rat said it. Sonic saying he's selling 90%. I don't know. I don't know, you guys. I don't know.
Oh yeah, Renee's fun to watch during this one too. She looks like she'd rather be anywhere else than where she's at.
She probably would. And her husband's stuck in a dumbass storyline too. He's writing his own storyline. Yeah.
Oh yeah, multiple times she's like clearly looking at her phone.
Well, I'm sure she's just doing her due diligence and being a live reporter, like looking up, trying to track down stories and facts, right?
Make sure I got my notes in order.
Yeah. Yeah, well, anyway, that's all, that's all that. But let's see. What else? Do we have anything from Full Gear, the show itself, to noteworthy to talk about? I only watch my man Jay White, so I don't really. I heard a bunch of stupid stuff happen. That's what Jimmy said during his recap. He basically said a bunch of stupid stuff happened, so I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to catch the entire thing, but it did not look like not a whole lot.
Did you do one of the late watch alongs, or?
Yeah, it was. I didn't want. I think what match did I pop in during? I don't even remember.
You didn't get to see the great Switchblade Jay White? No.
That might have been the match I popped in during Jay White and Adam Page.
Well, so that was that. Don't really know any other news. Apparently Jade Cargill's really hurt. That's why they did the angle. So hopefully she's better soon. Well, some other shit that happened. Something.
How much?
Renee. Apparently, Renee is dealing with a minor injury. Hold on. Let me click a minor foot injury. Let me click on this. Hold on. Maybe this is what she was looking at. Maybe she was looking at first aid on her phone. So let's see. According to Figure 4 Online, all right, my man Brian Alvarez, AEW broadcaster Renee Paquette currently working through a foot injury. Initially believed to be broken, but x-rays revealed that not to be the case. Whatever her injury, she's said to be hobbling around backstage, pushing through. So,
which means it's a little bit strained and she's taking it easy. Anybody who's actually had that happen to their ankle has done that. Hey, yeah, it sucks a little bit painful, but I can work through it. How many people have dealt with that in their lives?
I don't know, but a lot, but she doesn't need to. So she could have just said, "Hey, my foot, I'm not coming in. Just get Lexi to do everything like you always do," and then they would have said okay. But she did show up, so I appreciate her. Um, Apparently, that Costco guy broke his foot earlier in the day, doing what I don't know, probably just walking and existing. But uh, so he worked his match with a broken foot. So good for him. Maybe he can use that as an excuse. Um, but yeah, I mean that's just kind of what you do. A lot of people have to show up for work because they can't afford not to. Um, but apparently, since that guy's so much more over than the entire company of AEW, then he didn't have to show up either. But he did. Good for them. Let's see. And that was that. What else? Yeah, it just looks like a bunch of more the usual bullshit. People saying stuff on podcasts and having opinions. That's kind of my gimmick, having opinions. But uh but I was gonna get to, because I know Chris Winland sort of asked a question earlier. It was kind of related to stuff we talked about last time, as far as like, will TNA benefit by proxy from WWE's ID program, and will TNA ever benefit from the partnership with WWE? So far, not so much. One can always hope toward next year. Well, yes and no. Number one, as far as the ID thing goes, I mean, no. I mean, they don't. I don't see how TNA will benefit from the WWE ID thing, because WWE has been doing like silent IDs with Jordan Grace and Joe Hendry and stuff like that. Like, it's pretty clear who they have interest in, even if they don't have as much interest anymore. Um, or they went to try something out and maybe they saw, maybe they didn't get buyer's remorse because they didn't buy, they just rented, and that's kind of what the wrestling business used to be all about. It's about renting talent, not necessarily owning talent. It's only Vince McMahon, Vincent Kennedy McMahon, that normalized trying to own everything and own everybody. It really did used to be an independent contractor business. So you dictate where you work and everything like that. And talent moves around because, back in those days, you didn't have, not every, no, not, no, not every promotion had, or no promotions had nationwide reach. They were all regional broadcast. And so you wouldn't see these guys in, in one region, somebody that's working over in the territory where Brandon's staying, I'm not going to see him out here where I'm staying, because that was local. So if that guy did whatever he did, moved on, and then came out here to California, it would be a fresh set of eyes over here to see that person no matter what he did, right? So now, fast forward to now, you have your NXT program on television, and you call guys up by having them do a job on NXT and then show up on Raw like we're supposed to get excited. Like, what? So way backwards now. But at that time, that's how things were. So, renting talent is what it's kind of about. WWE doesn't even need to be doing this ID thing. They've been doing the ID thing forever. They'll have guys like Briscoe and Regal looking at guys that they wanted to sign and scouting them. There was just no official thing. This ID is just kind of like a bonus. It's just like, it's almost like a good faith gesture. Don't you think so, Brandon? Like, in terms of like what WWE has to gain from it, they don't have much to gain from it. It's more just like them saying, hey, this is a different thing. We're trying to do old school things in a modern era. That's how I take it so far. What do you think?
It does kind of feel a little bit like Triple H trying to revive a little bit of the old territory system.
Yeah, and why wouldn't it be? Triple H is a fan, so
Right, and why? And if you can revive the territory system as a developmental system where you have, prospects. All right, we're going to send you here. We're going to send you here. We're going to send you here. You're going to work in front of these crowds. You're going to work with these different, other workers. Why would that's like the best developmental system in my opinion.
mhm. So that's what they're gonna do. They want if WWE is really interested in signing guys, then it gives them a little financial boost, whatever that may be, to officially say I'm part of the WWE family in some way, and then you still go out and do all the traveling and get all the experience and everything like that, rather than just fit because as Triple H has said, there's not enough room under the PC roof for everybody. So that's why he's sending people out to TNA to get reps or going over to Noah in Japan to get reps or these other things.
Yep, and I was listening to the latest Keeping It 100, and I think if I remember correctly, they said on there if you are flagged as WWID, you're getting a salary too.
Yeah. So that's, it's like
Plus, like you can also up your indie booking, fee. Like trying to look at the positives, what it means for the talent for the boys and girls that get picked out.
right. So and yeah, Todd says they probably have scouts go to these indie shows, at least they used to, but I'm sure they still do. Like how are they finding out the guys they want to tag now? So they've always been looking for guys, especially since Hunter started NXT. He's made an active effort.
I actually remember a show I wrestled on in 2012. Gerald Briscoe was actually there scouting talent. Wes was on the show. He wrestled on it.
Right. So I mean, they've been doing that, and it's been more organized and concerted once Triple H took an interest in, having his own sort of developmental territory. And as Mike Martin says, who knows with this stuff, cover up for their monopoly. Sure, maybe, but again, that's 4 decades of old regime, like this definitely looks like it's trying to not be that. So even if it is a cover up, oh well. If the end justifies the means, I guess we'll see. But that's the thing. None of us really know. As I said on that wreckage, none of us really know anything about it. We're all speculating because we have, to shout out Keeping It 100. This is all speculation. We don't know. We just know what we get from the sources that are reporting on this, which is the same sources that we say are not credible sources every time we talk about dirt sheets. So like in the same breath, we try to repurpose information that we get from them while also saying they're not credible. So we don't know anything about the ID program and the WWE press release. If you don't trust WWE, you're not going to trust their press releases either. So there's really no way to know anything about it. You just have to always take that, sometimes you don't really get to know what's going on until it's too late. And you have hindsight and you have a bird's eye view of what's happened. Then you can be like, okay, most of the stuff when I talk about it, it comes from having like 35 years of like paying attention to the things that have happened. Not so much what people are reporting, not so much what companies are saying in their official press releases. It's about the show don't tell. I see the things that have happened, and I see the patterns in that, and the human behavior and the human psychology. Those are the things that I say when I make my conjectures and suppositions. I'm basing it on stuff that I've watched go on as behavioral patterns. So you could take everything I say with however much salt that you want to season it with. But I'm generally just not regurgitating other sources, and I'm also going to try to give credit to those sources when I can. But as far as the WWID thing, so far it looks positive to me. We've talked about it in depth. There's another what you call it, part of his question, will TNA ever benefit from the partnership with WWE? They already are in a way, because you can see the houses go up. And we talk about, and I know this is a sort of an alien concept to Channel Attitude, you know, uh, specifically brand narratives, but the fact is, the fact is, uh, wrestling is a live event business. Period. I don't care what anybody says about TV shows. I don't care what anybody says about TV ratings. It's a live event business, because the wrestling promotions will still, most of them exist without TV. Even though now with the internet, everybody can kind of have their own TV if you put in the work, and the world can watch you. But like, as far as like needing to be on national cable or something to be a success, that's obviously not the case. A lot of promotions, they need the people in the buildings buying the tickets, and that's what it is. And when WWE was the shits 4 or 5 years ago, that's what they didn't have. Some of it was because of lockdowns, but even before the lockdowns went into effect, people were not going. Let's just say the Hameen Tarp Emporium was not founded on AEW, bro. It was founded on WWE tarping off areas of their thing. How soon we forget. And so, they weren't doing business, and the TV show was awful. And now, even if you still think the TV show is awful, they are doing business in the houses. And you can say what you want about ticket prices. Very funny. I've already been saying that. Again, everybody's 5 years behind me. I was already saying, like, how long have you guys been hearing me say the price of a Hot Pocket is higher than it's ever been too? The Hot Pocket the Hot Pocket ain't changed, right? So, I get it that they're making more money because everything costs more, but regardless of whether everything costs more, there's more people in the buildings now, not less. So make of that what you will. And TNA is the same deal. How many times have we seen them try to shoot around the fact that they could barely get a few hundred people in a building, and now the houses look like they're up, and that part right there, no one's going to watch TNA on Access TV, so their ratings aren't going to go up, but they'll get more online interest, and they'll get more people in the buildings because TNA feels a little bit hotter. And you kind of, looking at the timing again, taking that bird's eye perspective, you kind of have to say, well, kind of houses started going up when WWE was open to working with them, Even when Jordan Gray showed up in the Royal Rumble, the houses weren't quite up yet, Brandon. We've covered many a TNA episode and not seen, big houses. Not that they're still big, but you know what I'm saying. All right, I've been rambling.
Ramble bamble, pal.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, and to what Mike said, yes, I've seen that same stuff in the locker room too, bro. The whole reason Abraham Washington got a job is because he wasn't even going to OVW anymore. Hi guys. He wasn't even going to OVW anymore. He got smartened up that a tryout was coming and Johnny Ace was coming. So he got on a bunch of gas and showed up and got a job. And then we got Abraham Washington. But he had basically almost quit the wrestling business at that point. So he got the inside tip. I mean, that's one of my famous, like, as far as like my anecdotal I was there things. I remember that. And I liked Brian. He's a good guy. I was happy that he got a job. And some of the people that were in our group were mad because they were showing up every day. It'd be like it would be like the the equivalent of like celebrity, like the Costco guy. I'm sure there's guys that are busting their ass at AEW every day, and this guy comes in and he gets the spot, and they're like, "Man, I want to get a spot." And then, of course, everybody's going to say, "Well, you got to get yourself over." Well, that's really easy to say when you're just a wrestler working for a promoter to say, "Get yourself over." Sometimes we all know that you need a little bit of help, but the point is, Danny Davis liked Brian. He gave him the heads up. Johnny Ace came in and hired him. That's it. From what I understand, because I wasn't at the tryout, but I have it on very reliable sources that his tryout was nothing great. So he was going to get that job regardless. But that's how that's how it goes sometimes. Actually, nepotism is how every business goes, wouldn't you say, Brandon? I mean, know a guy, right? That's the best talent. The best talent is knowing a guy.
Yeah, I would certainly say nepotism definitely plays a part in vast majority of hires, promotions, and stuff like that. But at the same time, nepotism isn't always necessarily a bad thing, because there are times where that person actually is qualified for that person. Just their method of getting it was, unscrupulous.
Yep. So, but anyway, yes. So that's that. Any other things we need to touch on, or should we just start impacting?
Deep Impact, pal.
Deep Impact and Armageddon. Tommy Callahan. Liz says, I was totally a Nepo baby. I got my job because of my dad and the guys I knew as a kiddo, but I kept my job because I was awesome sauce. Right. I mean, if you're a fraud, eventually, hopefully, you get weeded out. But a lot of times they just keep climbing the ladder somehow. They keep falling up. It's weird. It's weird how that works. All right. Well, speaking of weird how it works, TNA Impact on Access TV. I wonder what the ratings were. Probably like what, 60, 65. I'm going to guess in the high 60,000s if anybody wants to look. But anyway, we're going to get a catch-up packet because we have to know what happened on the previous weeks and months and years. Delicious Heinz ketchup.
You see that Z at the end, not an S, a Z, pal.
That's where we get that's where the Tommy Callahan reference comes in. Ketchup popsicle. So yeah, we're starting out with the Alicia Edwards versus Masha Slamovich Knockouts Championship match. No DQ. I don't remember that stipulation. Was it a stipulation? I forget from last week. Was it? Or were we finding out now?
I think they might have said it was like no DQ. I might have been in the final run up leading into the main event where the announcers ran down next week's card for last week for this show.
Yep. So well, anyway, that's what it is. It's no DQ. And again, I don't have to disavow this match because Kendra is a character on the show, so it's not out of nowhere. But yeah, they have a hardcore match here, basically. Now, as hardcore matches go, Brandon, where would you put this? Was this in the we're doing a bunch of stuff that doesn't make any sense logically and is dangerous, aka the Sami Callihan match, or was this a relatively decent hardcore match starring Masha Slamovich?
The only spot I personally didn't like was the power bomb onto the trash can when it was set upright. Like,
oh yeah,
so much could go wrong with that. Like, if you're gonna do any kind of a bump onto a trash can, it should be laid out like sideways.
Sure. Even that's a little dangerous because it can cut and pinch.
Right. That danger's still there, but at least it's way safer than it being like upside down, and you're landing on the back end of it.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, one thing that you take away from, or at least that I take away, I mean, we've been taking away, is that, and we've been saying this for years. Masha's just on a different level. She's just like she's on a whole other level than everybody in that place. You know, even Jordan Grace included. She's a level above that. I really, you know, WWE wants to ID somebody. They should have got her a while ago. You know, she's just adding more bumps to the bump card. So we want to get that and monetize that on a big stage as soon as we can because she's different and she's good. So I don't know, but they're kicking the can on it.
What if this run as Masha as like kind of the face of the Knockouts division is kind of a test run to see, okay, let's see how she does in that position. And like WWE are watching this. Okay, let's see how they do with the ball, how she does with the ball in her hands.
Well, yeah, it could be. The only thing I would retort on that is that like that's kind of, especially in terms of a talent scout. Um, that's kind of like a mark mentality. You should be able to see who's good no matter where they are on the card. You're not supposed to be influenced by their booking. You're supposed to be like, okay, I see this and I need to, I need to do something with this, right? Like Moose has not been booked as well as we would like. That doesn't stop us from seeing Moose's greatness. So we're not judging Moose based on what TNA is doing with him. We're doing it. We're judging him based on what we think about him, and that's how most people that are professional should think. But I mean, what can you learn about somebody from a TNA Knockouts title run? I mean, what that you couldn't already see?
Well,
That I don't know.
I don't think it's so much as the Knockouts title run as much as it is kind of like, I really think Jordan Grace is kind of 1 foot out the door, 1 foot in, and it's kind of a torch passing to her and Masha. And it's kind of, and not so much as the booking and her, on-screen character as champion as much as Masha the person handling the pressure and being able to, be in that position and carry that weight on her shoulders as a human being.
Right.
Because because one situation I immediately think of is when Eddie Guerrero had the belt put on him. He was more than willing to drop it because he's like, I'm not in a place where I can handle this right now.
Sure. But those responsibilities at that time in that company are much greater than they would be in TNA. TNA's not doing real business, so it's not like you're going to be on the Tonight Show or something being a TNA Knockouts champion, right?
True, but at the same time, they kind of put a little bit into perspective of like as somebody who's been used to the WWE schedule and being on TV for several years, all of a sudden being put into that position, you can kind of look at it as equivalent of, somebody who's been on the indies for a long time. They work their way up to TNA. They get to where Masha has been, and all of a sudden, okay, you're now the face of the Knockouts division. That you can kind of look at that as kind of the similar thing.
Could be. I mean, I don't know. For me, the light bulb went off the first time I saw her. I don't remember where it was. NWA, something like one of those early appearances. I just saw her come out, and the first thing I immediately said, because it was fresh in my mind at the time, was, "Oh, I get it. It's Zoya the Destroyer from Glow on Netflix. Perfect, like an actual person doing it, because she had the hair up. She was clearly a Russian or whatever, but like I got it immediately. And then as I watched her, I was like, oh shit, she could fucking go. So, that's all I needed to see. And here we are, however many years later, and she's just now winning a major title in a company. Even she was like the GCW champion, not the women's champion, the champion of GCW for like most of last year, I think, or some stupid thing like that. But like that is, that's less people are kind of, that's for the hardcores, I guess. So most people probably won't even know about that. Or like Cold Blooded says, his mind was blown when he heard her speak English, which I was already knowing. I even knew that. And I think you said you were surprised about that, right? When you first saw it, and I was just like, "Oh, you didn't know she spoke English? Yeah, just look at anything that's not wrestling. She speaks English." Um, and as to Todd Brantley's comment, it's like she doesn't have the typical WWE look, and that's exactly why they need her, because you want as many different things as possible for your for your international audiences and just your domestic audiences. We're tired of seeing the same five people every, how much stuff can you get out of Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley? We need to freshen things up. They got more women than they know what to do with now, but I'd still get Masha if I could.
And that's part of the importance of developing characters and developing stories, because of like, you have something like with Liv and Rhea where it's like it's not really resolved, but it's at the moment stale. So you can split that off, have them go do something else for a while, freshen it up, and then go back to it and reach its conclusion.
Yep. So there's that. Well, all that is just to say that she hits a package pile driver on Alicia Edwards and beats her, and then they leave the heat back to Tasha Steelz to come in, and then Jordynne Grace with music runs in and makes the save. So that's that.
I like the finish of her using something different than the snowplow, because then okay, you saw her pin somebody with a different move, so that way you can actually, when she hits it, you can think it might be over right there.
Mm-hmm. And it's a little extra emphasis on the neck too.
Yeah, that too.
Snowplow, you kind of supposed to take it on the neck, I guess, like kayfabe, but and she only has the snowplow because she has a Russian gimmick and there's snow there. Let's face it. She could say it's an homage to Al Snow, but I
dude, like when the conflict in Russia and Ukraine first started kicking off, I'm like, dude, they should have brought Al Snow on. And then they do a thing where she beats the shit out of him in a match, and she basically annexes the snowplow for herself.
Mm-hmm. That'd be good. So, and shout out to Charles Alfred. If I forgot to shout him out when he first came in, Charles the Hammer Evans, fellow OVW brother, just a good brother in general. Is Kushida a rascal, Brandon?
Potentially honorary, because he's definitely got the smoke, as he revealed at the end.
Oh, that's right. Are you sure that's not just cold air from traveling through time at 88 miles per hour?
I think it's I'm pretty sure how did they end it? They said, even Kushida, he said, yep.
Yeah, shout out to his partner, Alex Shelley, who tried to get Yup over and is now a WWE Tag Team Champion, so it worked.
Rascal adjacent.
Yeah, they have very strict drug laws in Japan, which may be why Kushida moved to the States. Speaking of drugs, Jody Threat. She's gonna take on Ash by Elegance in a match here. They each have their own respective goons in their corners. Danny Luna's, of course, the other half of Spitfire. We've got Heather by Elegance and the Concierge on the other side. And they are constantly committing shenanigans during this match. And ultimately, I would say it is Danny Luna's lack of response to the shenanigans that ends up costing Jody Threat the win here, because they will do all kinds of stuff like choke her on the ropes or push her off of things. And Danny Luna just goes to the corner post and complains to the referee when there's nothing stopping her from just running over there and nailing both of them. But she never does. Or at least if she does, it's too late. Because there was plenty of times where she just did absolutely nothing but distract the referee more so they could do it. I understand that spot. Like, trust me, I get it. I get the spot of the baby face distracting the ref so the heels can cheat, but the way they did it here and the frequency with which they did it really buried Danny Luna, in my opinion. Luckily, nobody's watching, But that's my take on it. What about you?
Yeah, the way you kind of laid it out like that, it would actually make sense if in the end, all of a sudden, Danny Luna stabs Jody Threat in the back and joins Team Elegance.
Right. Which would never happen.
Yeah, which wouldn't make any sense whatsoever, because, like, where did this come from?
Yeah, but she might as well with this, because she got Jody Threat's ass kicked with her complaining. All she had to do was go over there and punch Heather and the concierge once each. And then Jody would have had a better chance. Anyway, rarefied air, and Ash by Elegance picks up a win. Santana is in the ring for a promo. He's interrupted by the king of TNA, Frankie Kazarian. And they go back and forth a little bit. And then Santana's...
You got to see it without the picture-in-picture?
I got to see it. Was there a picture-in-picture on this?
Oh, yeah, dude. Like, in the middle of the promo, picture-in-picture.
So, my bootleg feed shows the whole thing through. So that's so for you Access TV viewers, unfortunately.
I didn't watch it on Access TV.
Well, for your feed that you click, unfortunately, they must have used the Access feed, because my feed showed the whole promo, and you didn't miss nothing. It was just them jaw jacking and whatever. But then did they come back in time for Santana to suggest that they make it official at Turning Point, Santana versus Kazarian? Did they come back from commercial in time for him to say that?
Yes, we did get to that point where he said, "This is normally when Santino comes out here, his music plays, comes out randomly like he likes to."
Okay, so we got to that point, but then we did get an official match, because it's Rhino versus Kazarian now, so the commentary is making a big deal, or especially Matthew Raywalt saying that, like, Kazarian had to take this match on no notice, and Tom is like, "What do you mean no notice? This was an advertised match." And so they're trying to do a little bit, Raywalt doing his heel commentator thing, and Kaz versus Rhino have a match. They talk about how many years these guys have been fighting each other, for like 20 years, and then of course you would think after 20 years you'd have a little bit more chemistry, and you would be the best that you ever been. Frankie Kazarian, obviously, in 2024 should be as good of a wrestler as he's ever been, because he's got all these years of experience now. And what we get is the absolute sorriest schoolboy and foot on the ropes pin that I've seen, and well, probably since the last time Kazarian did it, because I think I remember him having a match where I said his schoolboy and foot on the ropes spot sucked too. I can't remember who he was working there. Maybe it was Joe Hendry or somebody like that, but goddamn, Frankie Kazarian, for all his, I guess at the Kowalski school, they did not teach the foot on the rope schoolboy spot. What can you say? Is it too late to teach an old dog new tricks? Can we get him in the to work out in the ring before the show, and show him how to do a proper, scoop pin foot on the ropes deal?
Pal, get me Frankie Kazarian, get me Eddie Edwards, get me Triple H, get me Perry Saturn. We're having a seance and bringing Killer Kowalski and talking to his spirit, pal.
Cold-Blooded says that match is where the picture-in-picture should have been. Yeah, that finish specifically. They should let the finish happen picture-in-picture, so nobody could possibly see it. It is so bad. If you want to see it, it is worth going back and finding it just to see how bad it was. I will say that. But anyway, so Frank Kazarian gets the win, and Rhino is dumbfounded, probably because he's like, "Oh my God, why did I stay down for that shitty pin?" And then, so Kazarian struts around with his trophy, and that causes him to get gored by Rhino. Did you have any other overall thoughts on this match and segment?
Not in particular. It kind of just was what it was to pay off what they set up last week. Nothing really more than that.
Okay, well, speaking of what we set up last week, oh my God, what's next? Holy shit. This is something I almost kind of want to like. I want to give the Costco guys on Full Gear pre show treatment where I just don't dignify it with a response and just say, okay, this happened, let's move on. But then part of me really wants to cut a promo on it. But if I cut a promo on it, it's the same promo I've been cutting on it and everything else that they do. Not just TNA, but wrestling in general.
Let me guess. The Steve Macklin, Eric Young vignette.
You don't have to guess, buddy. You see the format just as well as I do. Oh my God. So anyway, we're with Burt Macklin at the movies. I mean, at the bar. Because this is clearly somebody's student, failed student film, thesis, whatever. They're trying their ass off. They think they make movies, pal. So he's at the bar. But this is, it's not just that he's drinking at the bar cinematically. It's that, the we're getting slow motion, we're getting flashback scenes, like when the bartender's talking to him and he says, like she's like, so how long you been back? And it's like we're supposed to know because of his military history that the bartender knows. So she knows enough about this guy that just wandered into her bar to ask him about his deployment, but she's never seen him before. So she shouldn't. She should already know the answer to her question. Like if you're that comfortable with this guy that you're going to ask him a question like that, you should know the answer to the question like that. This isn't something you ask a first-time bar patron, I don't think.
Can I play devil's advocate?
Please.
They might have been beginning middle of conversation. Like he might have, been had a few drinks in him. He started talking about his service, talking about coming back. And then she follows up with that question. And then that's when we start seeing that conversation.
All right. I'm not even going to respond to that. I'm going to let you respond with my response. What's my response to that, Brandon?
It's bullshit.
Well, yeah, specifically, why don't we see that then? If that's what happened.
Which I would agree with. Yeah, why don't we see the beginning of that conversation?
Right. It just has to be one extra sentence. But
why aren't we seeing Steve Macklin pull up to the bar and go inside?
No. We're not going to see any of those things. What we are going to see, though, is inside his brain when he flashes back to the war. That's what we're going to see. We can see that because, well, I'll get to that in a second. I will address that in a minute. So yeah, he gets the PSD flash in which she's like, how long you been back? He says, never left. Like he thinks he's doing some fucking like old man Logan, sitting at the, like this is straight out of like X-Men 1 from 2000 or some it's that. And then of course we got to get our old man country emo bullshit soundtrack to play over this. It wouldn't be complete without that, without the slow singing, the Johnny Cash Hurt cover, fucking Eric Young shit. Don't worry. Eric Young's a big part of this too, because he walks into this bar, I guess, after Macklin leaves or something.
Yeah, Macklin leaves, and then Young comes in and sits in Macklin's seat.
Right. So anyway, then we get then we can see that Macklin goes back to his motel room, goes in his room. He's trying to sleep. He can't sleep. He's wide awake. He's tossing and turning even when he is sleeping. He's in his underpants. And I'm like, as we're seeing this man toss and turn in his underwear above the covers in a motel, the first question that pops in my mind is, who's filming this? From the ceiling? Like who did Macklin, the war veteran, Did he not know someone got into his room and was filming him from the ceiling, or did he let him in? This guy, the front toward enemy guy, he trusts another man with a camera to shoot him in his underwear, tossing and turning. Is what I think when I see this. But that's not the best part. The best part is Eric Young again, who now is Deanna Parazzo. Good guess, Todd. She's over there doing nothing in AEW with Taya Valkyrie. So,
Although in this upcoming sequence, I think what they're setting up was this is supposed to be him dreaming.
oh, I know. Don't worry. Let me cook. So, yes, in this sequence, as Brandon has already spoiled, Eric Young is back, but he's now playing. Look, I know what they're doing. Don't make the mistake for 1 second that I'm confused about this. I've seen thousands of movies. I know what they think they're doing, okay? So what they think they're doing here, this is the scene, this is the sort of the, hey, I remember watching Fight Club when I was a teenager and thinking it was the most revolutionary thing that I would ever see in my life. I know how to do this. So Eric Young is playing the part of a piece of Steve Macklin's fractured psyche. It's him imagining, it's a piece of him, his existence being played by Eric Young in this sequence, which is a dream, because apparently he did finally get to sleep. And so we're seeing this play out. We're seeing this, the Dr. Young or whatever, talking to Steve in his dream about who he really is, and looking in the mirror and all this other, pseudo intellectual psychological thriller bullshit. Until somebody knocks on the motel door, and that's when we see he's awakened from his dream. So he did get to sleep. And that guy's been filming him the whole time. And it's Eric Young at the door. I guess the real Eric Young. Or is it still a dream? Was there a top spinning in the background on the nightstand in the motel? Hey, listen.
Inception, pal.
Yeah. This is what I think happened, okay? Clearly. And Cold Blooded already nailed it. But clearly what happened with this TNA NXT partnership is somebody that went down there to NXT from TNA, whether it was Jordan Grace herself or any of the other people that made cameos, like Trey Miguel, perhaps. Like, what they did was they stole the technology that WWE has had that allows people to see into dreams. Because we used to get movies about Apollo Crews' dreams and future visions, because he sees the future like the Equalizer. When Denzel goes in the room and he sees all the possibilities, like, before it happens, and plays it out in his mind. And Apollo Crews, the WWE has the technology to film that. They know how to film consciousness. They know how to film dreams. They know how to do all that stuff. And they've been selfishly keeping that technology that could help everyone across planet Earth in so many ways. We could have world peace by now if we had just harnessed this technology, but WWE is selfishly holding it to themselves just to, yes, Wendy Chu Dreamovision, they're holding it to themselves. They're keeping it selfishly for themselves to shoot vignettes at NXT. And I think someone has come in and either they have stolen the dream technology from NXT, or they have just studied it, got the blueprints, reverse engineered it, and now TNA has it in their possession so that we can see what Burt Macklin is dreaming of, and we can see inside all of his PTSD as well.
Wouldn't that make TNA the baby faces, since they're trying to get this out to a wider audience and they're trying to get the technology out more?
It would, but just like everything, when you steal something that could help humanity, you still are only doing it for yourself, selfishly.
Very true.
I mean, we think Prometheus was stealing the fire for humanity, but are you sure it wasn't just to get himself over? Like, we don't know. So I just, like, obviously this is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen. And this is kind of like how it, I worry that the sport is trending more in this direction than, you know, what we were talking about earlier with going back old school with WWID. I hope I'm wrong. But them continuing to placate the Wyatt Six gimmicks on Monday Night Raw and stuff, and with TNA thinking that they're shooting masterpieces for submission to Cannes Film Festival. Um, I just, I don't know. I don't know. Was that a promo? Did that count? Did I cut a promo on it? I don't know. I kind of just feel like I recapped and commentaried, but yeah.
I don't know. I don't think there's anything else you could have added to that.
Is there anything else you can add to it?
Nothing that wouldn't get you mad, because I kind of liked it, because I'm more of an entertainment guy, but I also understand and get your arguments of why it doesn't work for wrestling. I just personally like it.
That's fine. I think I respect the effort. It's just misplaced effort, you know? Like you could even do things just like this, and as long as you sort of give it the right context. But the context is always that this is really happening in the real world, and we just have to accept that. The stuff with Jonathan Gresham, like shaking hands with himself, like the way we see that, how else are we supposed to take that other than literally like, okay, we're looking into his insanity. Like the camera is showing us a picture of his insanity. And it's like, okay, well, how would you ever do that? Now, if you were presenting this as a vignette piece that a professional athlete has made to promote themselves, and you tweak it with that in mind, like to where it's like, yes, this is what I want. This is how I want to market myself, right? Like, this is how I want people to think of me, or these things when they see me. I want them to see this story that I'm trying to tell, this image that I'm trying to project, even though I'm just a guy with trunks and boots. But like, all part of my aura is this as a marketing tool, you know? Like, I produced a full short film to market me, yes. But these are not that. These are, this is happening and TNA's filming it somehow, and deal with it. That's how it's presented. So that's the difference to me. You could still do cinematic packages and things and little short films and stuff, but I would use that as like, I would expect the audience to fully believe that wrestler is sitting there saying, you know, with the director, and the director saying, cut, okay, that's good, that looks good, this is going to look good on Impact when we air this, type thing. Not that someone just captured it, you know, like it was real. So that's basically it.
Right. And if you have like wanting to shoot a vignette where there's something going on in a wrestler's head and they're freaking out over it, there's ways you can sell that without actually going into their head, just with how they sell and perform it.
Yeah. And having Eric Young play the role. This is the Eric Young of my head, not the Eric Young that wrestles, you know, like, what? Oh, God. All right. Leon Slater and Laredo Kid versus Moose and the JDC, which is exactly, okay, this in itself is a point to further my point. You just sat here and watched this Burt Macklin shit. You're like, even if you liked it, you're probably like, wow, huh, all right, that was something else. Like, that's a little different. I want to see where they go with this. And then the next thing you see is four guys in their underwear in a ring. You cannot, never the twain shall meet. Like, you cannot have live action, whatever Bert's going through. So what good is it? You know, like, at the end of the day, no matter what he does and how many bars and motels across the country, He's still got to get in there, strip down to his trunks, and wrestle a dude.
Yeah, I would agree. Those two needed a buffer between them.
Yeah,
Backstage interview, some kind of backstage segment, something.
There ain't no buffer big enough. It's a whiplash. So anyway, but the good news is
my neck.
the good news is you're getting Moose whiplash. So
Moose. My neck's even worse.
Moose. Well, okay. So basically what Brandon did right there was an impression of Laredo Kid after he got power bombed on the apron and slid off like in the most that's the worst bump I've ever seen Moose give somebody. Moose, God damn it. You know we're your biggest fans, but I can't let that one go, bro. You fucking killed that guy. You had to take care. This guy survived death. He almost, Laredo Kid almost died due to his, what was it? Diverticulitis or some other.
He might have been like a kidney or a liver issue.
It was something in the lower stomach.
Yeah,
that he almost died from. Here. Yeah, down where? Down there. Yeah, yeah, he survived and came back from that just to get power bombed on the apron, like on his neck and shoulder. Like, Moose, you got to take care of the guy. You don't do this, Moose. Last time I saw Moose fuck something up like this, he did like the rock bottom style move through a table, and he just had a little too much zest on it and kind of lost control. So he didn't put the person down flat. I don't remember who it was now, but he did it. He just did like a rock bottom on a table outside, and the guy kind of slipped out, so it was like, I could see in the moment you get the adrenaline going and you're hype and these kind of things happen. But Moose has always got the adrenaline going and hype, and he generally is very safe, at times a little too safe. But there's no excuse for this. Just please don't do that again. Please.
Right. And if it was Laredo Kid who suggested it, Moose should have said, nah, dude, I ain't doing that to you.
Right. I mean, even for an apron powerbomb, this was like he missed. He fucking missed. He missed the apron. I would have rather taken it on the concrete than to have missed the apron in this manner, because this right here is the exact way that like vertebrae gets severed.
Yeah, when you hit that corner of that apron, oof.
When you can't take, it's not even just the corner of the apron, but it's like the corner of you, right? Because the whole idea of the bump is you spread the impact across your body to minimize all of the impact in each individual area. If the impact, that's why you don't spike. And Stevie Richards just did a video from his Stevie Richards show. They put the clip out of when the Beverly Brothers were using that move, the Shaker Heights spike, where they were purposely spiking dudes on their head, and like, there's no way to take that. So, if you want to see that video to learn more and more what we're talking about, but Moose is not doing it to be a dick. He just did it too fast. He didn't set up correctly. He didn't aim correctly. He didn't, he was trying to do it quickly, but there's an old saying that says, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So, or if you want to, if for any construction workers out there, measure twice, cut once, right? Just take your time and set it up. As a matter of fact, the anticipation of the thing is what makes it. It's like Moose grabbed him, right? And it was supposed to be a quick bang, bang. Like, I grabbed you and I picked you up and boom, powerbomb in the apron, like lightning fast. But that's wrong anyway. What you do is, and Charles, tell me I'm wrong. When the audience sees Laredo Kid in the powerbomb position, they have time to anticipate what's about to happen to him. Theoretically, they're like, no, don't do it to Laredo Kid. Not Laredo Kid. Don't do it to him. Don't do it to him. Please don't do it to him, Moose. Don't do it to him. You did it to him. If you just pick him up and snap him down before anybody has a chance to realize what happened, all they have to do, the only chance they have to to worry about Laredo Kid is, when they read about him going to the hospital. And didn't we just do a set of tapings where Chris Bay went to the fucking hospital?
Chris Bay and Vikingo on the same tapings.
So when the old timers say learn to fucking work, instead of being a young wrestler, which Moose is not that young anymore, and again, this is not usually a Moose problem, but I'm in the interest of, again, being fair, I'm not just gonna be like some people out there who are just biased for people they like and not call them out on their shit. I mean, there's a certain very, 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 very popular wrestling podcaster that you're not going to hear say anything bad about FTR, for example. But I am going to, as much as I love Moose and as much as I'm anticipating his TNA action figures arriving at the house, I still have to say this. You fucked up, man. I say it because I love Moose, not because I don't. You fucked up. Don't do that. Learn to work. The threat of it. That's exactly right. Learn to fucking work. You young people, don't get offended when you hear an old man say, learn to fucking work. Understand what they mean and learn to fucking work. So, anyway. After all that, Leon Slater actually cradles up JDC and pins him in a much better pinning predicament than Kazarian had earlier. And then of course they get the heat back. But then Laredo Kid cleans house with a chair. So he's not paralyzed. That much is clear. He came in with the chair and ran off Moose and JDC afterwards. Which somehow, even though Leon Slater got the pin in this match, I guess the fact that Laredo Kid came in with a chair and swung it at people, that's what gets him the X Division title shot against Moose at Turning Point. So Leon Slater's over here winning a match like, what the hell? Anything else?
I like how there's not really any tension at all in the system. Like when they have a loss like this, they're not fighting and blaming each other. It's more like regroup and let's get back at it. And I think that makes them more dangerous as a heel faction.
Well, they are the system.
And every time they've regrouped, they've found success. Like when they lost the tag team titles and the world title, they got the tag team titles back. And lost the tag team titles again. Moose got the X Division title.
I mean, I still think they should kind of have all the titles, and Moose should still be a champion, and he should have took the X Division title and had all the belts. And I think Moose should be the new Ultimo Dragon, as long as he doesn't powerbomb people on the apron wrong anymore, or at all. That's just what I think. Joe Hendry cuts a live promo.
Yeah, this is kind of lame by Hendry standards.
Yeah, he just came out and cut a babyface promo, kind of.
Yeah, very, very generic for him.
At least he did it in the room. At least they were smart enough to do it in the room and not like do a pre-tape backstage with Gia or something.
Right, get him in front of the live crowd.
Yeah, which they don't do for Dolph Ziggler. He just does his promo with his little cap, t-shirt, and sport coat ensemble and the most garish pink lighting you ever seen in your life. So hashtag turn off the lights.
As we'll see again later.
Mm-hmm. And as we saw earlier with, those guys, Rascals, had a green.
Oh, yeah, Rascals and Kushida. Yeah, we had the green light there.
Super green. But at least you could say,
for them,
that's kind of like the Kendra. That's like the Kendra thing.
Right.
Like, well, if you could see the Rascals setting up a shitty light just to do their little clubhouse gimmick. You could see them doing that, but if it's just there because TNA production put it there, then that's what I've always had the issue with.
As soon as I saw the lights in the background, I started looking for it, and I saw like you can, and they're visible. You can actually see the lights like set up behind them.
Corny. Sorry. Savannah Evans, you may remember her as possibly a cannibal. I don't know if she still is or if she's given up human meat, but she's taking on Brittany Jade. And I know you're all at home saying who, and then hitting a kazoo perhaps, but yeah, wait one.
And welcome back, Conan. And honestly, if you guys have not had a chance to, please check out that Keeping It 100 and listen to his story. It is amazing.
Yes. Shout outs to Conan. Shout outs to Disco and Joe and everybody over at Keeping It 100. I've listened to every episode since day one, and that's hard to do these days because for some reason a big chunk of the episodes are like removed from archives and stuff. So maybe they'll never be heard of again. But Brittany Jade, how would I describe Brittany Jade? I would describe her as a more unfortunately shaped sky blue. That's kind of what I got from her. But anyway, it doesn't matter. She gets the full Nelson slam from Savannah Evans, or as I like to call it, AKA, I don't have a finisher.
As soon as I saw that, I just groaned. I was like, you couldn't have come up with something different from that since the time you were out.
No. You could tell if somebody's just not. If you have there's three. There's a trilogy of moves. I've talked about this in the past. I'll go over it. If you have a full Nelson slam, if you have a roll of the dice, or if you have a flatliner,
yep,
you have no finisher, and it's time for you to. Which is funny because the current undisputed WWE champion uses roll of the dice, but whatever, doesn't matter. Generally, that's the three moves, but especially a full Nelson slam. The lamest, most boring thing you could do. And then we go backstage to Masha admiring her own belt. And then Jordan Grace comes in. She's like, hey, Masha, what are you doing? Admiring your own belt? And she's like, yeah. And then Jordan Grace is like, or she's like, hey, Masha's like, maybe we should, maybe our match at Turning Point should be 2 out of 3 falls. And Jordan Grace is like, yeah, that's a good idea. See you later, best friend. And then that's it.
I'll text you later.
Text you later. TYL. All right. Well, speaking of...
they literally said text you later.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, that's how things are now. They just, people texting. They're probably texting in the same building. They're probably like across the room texting rather than just yelling. Yep. Revamped Wrestling saying, give flowers to those that deserve them. Yes. Everybody lets you know. That's why I'm telling Moose now, before anything happens to me or anyone else. If you're going to apron powerbomb somebody, be careful and slow. Okay.
Yeah, so don't get ahead of yourself. Take it as somebody who rushes everything they do in their life. Slow down, pal.
Yep. I can't put that phrase over enough. Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. But this is not that. This is the 6-man main event. This is I don't think it's slow, smooth, or anything. It's just something. Jake something. Hammerstone. Trent Seven. Now, one of these things is not like the others. Something. Hammerstone. Trent Seven. He's like their neighbor that they were like, they saw him like washing the car or something. They were like, hey, you want to be in a wrestling match? He's like, all right. Versus Ace Hardware. So I didn't really watch that closely in this. So was there anything of note to speak on?
Nah, this was a total house show live crowd pleaser match. Which, if you were in the live crowd watching it,
please at least.
I will say at least it got that job done at least. But as a TV viewer, it's just like, can this be over already? Whereas if I had been part of that live crowd, I would have guaranteed I would have enjoyed it. but I wasn't part of that live crowd.
Yeah, you were part of the home audience. You were part of the 99,000. All right. Well, anyway, the match ends with a low blow and a burning hammer to Ace. And then there's a schmoz after. And then the Rascals come out and run the heels off. And then all the nice young baby faces shake hands. And it goes right off the air. Handshake, credits. No post-credits sequence with Driving Bert this week. We already took care of that. That was that. Hey man, I've seen worse wrestling shows, but not many. Any final thoughts on that before we punch it?
Nah, no final thoughts on that, but looking at next week's schedule and how Impact is going to be a bunch of unaired matches. This week I decided to forego the punching up, and I'm going to spend the rest of the week getting a 2-parter ready for next week.
Oh. Well, then, if that's the case, I guess what you're saying is we take it home?
Unless you got anything else you want to add.
I sure don't. If you like what I had to say and you want to hear more, rewind it. Drag the progress bar as soon as we close. Cause yeah, I'm surprised I remained as composed during that Macklin short film as I did. I guess my brain is finally fully broken. I don't know. Am I broken, Vet Hardy?
Did you notice that during that dream sequence we saw a return to that prison?
I think I did. And maybe I trauma blocked it. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I could say this much. Yeah, that picture-in-picture is getting fixed. Moving into the match, not the promo.
Yeah, it's not going to be same picture-in-picture as we got on the show with just cutting off the promo. All right. Well, then, if that's it, then we want to, yes, definitely thank all you guys. And we also want to tell you, if you enjoyed this, where else can you enjoy us, Brandon?
As always, you can catch me on Twitter, or as the kids call it these days, the X at LG Brandon Whoop. I am also on twitch.tv/LG Brandon Whoop Whoop every Wednesday following the HMG AEW Dynamite watch along, which we'll be doing a late start of this week because work kind of moved my schedule around because of Thanksgiving, so I'm working Wednesday night. Tuesday we'll be doing an HMG After Dark. Not quite sure what we'll be doing that evening. Thursday night, not quite sure yet. Still kind of working on trying to kind of figure out what to do on that. Friday night
you're not going to be eating a giant turkey?
Well, I mean after that. That.
Okay, all right.
And then Friday night we got a late start of a SmackDown watch along. Saturday night, late start of Survivor Series. And then Sunday we'll be doing a very, very quick blow through of TNA replay watch along, followed up by a Turning Point replay watch along.
Got it. What night is Turning Point? Friday or Saturday?
I think Turning Point airs live on Friday.
Ugh.
Yeah, oof.
Turning Point, Survivor Series. Like, this is another one of those weekends where they put everything in again. Damn it. All right, well, anyway. Well, thank you very much. Join Brandon for as much of that as you can. We appreciate it. Definitely, you can find me at Opinion Haver on all your favorite social media platforms. You can find me every Wednesday, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. Next Level Wrestling Review, Big Ray Hernandez. You can find me every Sunday, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. Da Wreckage with Jimmy T.
My God.
New guy's in the corner puking his guts out. So
all because you want to save a couple extra pennies.
Yeah. Do you validate? All right.
Get out.
So yeah, we get a bonus. Yes, one of these we'll do a. We won't do a Tommy Boy watch along. If I can ever join you on an evening, we won't necessarily do a Tommy Boy watch along. We'll just act out the whole movie ourselves, and we'll flip a coin to see who plays. Which one's David Spade and which one's Chris Farley. Which one's Tommy and which one's Richard. We'll flip because I'm sure we can do the whole thing anyway.
Either role.
Right, yeah. We could both do one man shows of Tommy Boy. But why do twice the work when you can divide it up? So that's just part of working smart. So anyway, yes, check out that stuff that I said already, and then also check out Wrestling with Rip Rogers every Friday. I'm not there anymore. It was a nice 2-week hosting gig. But even though I may be back one day in the future, right now Von Lilas is back on hosting duties. So go check them out. And, if you feel like going in there and asking a question, you just might get an answer. Ooh, a Tommy Boy and Black Sheep duel? I don't know. Yeah, I think my brain might get, the wires crossed just like Steve Macklin. But anyway, yeah, also check out the Stevie Richards show, the new episode talking about what was it, Paul Heyman this time? Like the long relationship with Paul Heyman and talking about lots of other stuff.
Yep, and they did the best managers of all time.
Best managers of all time. I do take exception to I'll say this. Stevie had a great list except for Elizabeth. I understand his point. I just disagree on the grounds that it's actually the reverse of what he said. I think Elizabeth did absolutely nothing for the Macho Man character as far as like Elizabeth, but her being there was like Elizabeth was like the Macho Man's sunglasses, sequin cape, like the mannerisms, all that. Elizabeth was like another one of those things that he does, not something that she enhanced. It's like,
Right.
you see what I'm saying?
She was part of the Macho Man rather than her own individual self.
Right. She didn't make the Macho Man. The Macho Man wore her like a headband or a zebra striped cowboy hat. Is basically, that's how it was, in my opinion. Because everybody will tell you, what you saw out there was just her nervously standing around because that's what it was. She had no verbal skills or like no wrestling knowledge. He just met her at a gym somewhere. It's not like, she was like working at a Gold's Gym or something. She's just some chick. So this is the ultimate, like, bring your wife to work and lock her in the closet. So I can't give a Mount Rushmore spot to Miss Elizabeth because she's basically just the coffee creamer that Macho Man used in that promo. Sorry to disrespect a human being like that, but I'm talking about the wrestling character. I don't mean the person.
Well, to be fair, as far as like, being an actual wrestling manager goes, I can see that argument, but at the same time, with the Mega Power storyline would have never happened without her. Like, she was that catalyst. She was the yeast that made that dough rise.
But again, not because of her contributions.
Right. It was more of the dynamic between her and Macho that kind of spilled over into Hogan and then kind of set that chain reaction off.
Yeah, you look at the other 3 names on that list that he put on the Mount Rushmore: Bobby Heenan, Paul Bearer, and Jim Cornette. Like, all of those guys worked so hard to be like, for the gimmicks to get over and for themselves to enhance the gimmick so that the gimmick could get more over, so yeah. And Liz says, I loved Elizabeth, but she always looked like she was being held against her will. She was. That's a shoot. So she was too scared to break up with this guy for so many years is what really happened. And I really do believe he loved her truly, but some people just don't know how to manifest that in a healthy way.
Yeah, like legitimate love and care for somebody paired with paranoia, extreme paranoia that in the wrestling business, horrible combination. Horrible combination.
Yeah. So that's all I'm saying. Is she didn't go like no one talks about her run with Lex Luger, like the total package is like, oh, Elizabeth really made Lex Luger in the total package gimmick, or oh yeah, her and woman, with Ric Flair really they just made Rick. No one talks about that, and that's because there was nothing to talk about. But that's okay. I get Stevie's point. I'm sure if I locked him in a closet with me like Macho Man did to Elizabeth, I could convince him that I'm right. Um, but yes. So anyway, great talking and great episode nonetheless. Great stories about Paul Heyman. They also talk about the Shaker Heights drop or spike like I talked about earlier. So just go check out Stevie Richards. That's pretty much it. So we can wrap on that. For Brandon, I'm the vet. And I do have a sign off line this week. Have a happy Thanksgiving and have a safe Thanksgiving. Be careful out there. Be aware. And, above all else, take care of yourself and make it back to us next week. But other than that, I don't have a sign off line.